Tom Quee presents The Royle Ramble, an episode-by-episode celebration of the classic British sitcom The Royle Family. To get in touch with the show, email us at theroyleramblepod@gmail.com. Hey everyone, it's Tom here, back with another edition of The Royle Ramble. This is, from what I gather, the only Royle Family podcast going in the world. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We aren't going to be talking about the Royle Family really at all in this episode. Rather, I think, when you think of Ricky Tomlinson, you think of two things really. You think of obviously Jim Royle, and then you think of Mike Bassett. You think of Mike Bassett, England manager. So we're going to be exploring the film itself, the character, the references, the legacy, so many things associated with this film. And, this has been a long time coming, really. I hadn't actually seen this movie until doing the prep for the podcast. I was obviously aware of it. We'll talk about our sort of histories with the film as well. But it is not just going to be myself here, as that pronoun just gave away. It is we, and I am joined by... So I've done a few podcasts in my time, as I mentioned on the show before, and one of my first quote-unquote successes, I will say, in the sense that people are at least listening to it, was called Battle Rap Resume. I'm obsessed with a thing called Battle Rap, which we don't really need to get into much here, but it's kind of essentially international competitive name calling. It is an incredible sport that goes into so many different directions, and I'm an addict to it. And I did this podcast called Battle Rap Resume that's still going, but I don't really do it much anymore. I spend most of my time doing the Royle Ramble and other stuff like that. So it was me interviewing a lot of my heroes, a lot of the battle rappers that I looked up to that gave me so many hours of entertainment. And some of the guys I'd have on the show would become semi-regulars because we'd always have great conversations, and it'd always be a delight to kind of spar with them, as it were. And today I'm joined by one of them, Pamphlet. Pam, how's it going?
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and we were just saying off air that it's probably been about 3 years since we actually got on a Skype call together. We did see each other at an event about a year ago or so in the Fiddler's Elbow,
right.
but no, it's great to have you on here, man. And maybe we'll touch on a little bit about battle rap at the end, but one of the other things that we share in common is that, we're both huge into our comedies and our sitcoms, etc. So, I don't really know this. What is your history with the Royle Family? Like, are you a big fan? What do you remember watching it back in the day, or?
Yeah, so, it appealed to me because I really liked the idea of that family unit, the idea of sitting down at the end of the day and all coming together and not necessarily getting along, but it was a unity, which I never quite felt, Tom, growing up, unfortunately. Right. What with a single parent working hard. So yeah, it was a kind of, it wasn't the ideal family, but it was an ideal family at the same time.
Yes.
And that's the beauty in comedy. It's that bittersweet.
And any memories of it being on air? Like any memories of the early days of the show, or did you get into it later on? Or?
Yeah, so I was a fan of Mrs. Merton, the chat show she used to do back in the day. Caroline Ahern, is it Caroline?
R.I.P. Caroline.
Yeah, very sad what happened to her. Terrible. Yeah, a real institution of British comedy, especially in the female side. There weren't many women comedian better than her.
No,
in Britain, especially. She came through for the Fast Show, which I really enjoyed. I think that might have been what sparked my curiosity on her, and looked into her back catalogue. But I used to enjoy watching Mrs. Merton with my great aunt, who it was on BBC Two, maybe. It was Mrs. Merton and Malcolm, so it was a sitcom she did.
Yes, no,
with Craig Cash.
I discovered that recently. It's very divisive. Yeah. I think it's very good. A lot of people hate it. I think it's great.
There's a lot of has he got difficulties? I just think it was a character. He was playing a man-child.
Agreed.
And it was a character. But it was really good. Back in the day, the episodes were really funny. My great aunt would quote them all the time.
Do you remember the neighbour? Do you remember Arthur, the neighbour?
Yes, I do. He played great. A lot of...
He did. He was in a lot of
loads of sitcoms.
Yeah, he was.
Real mainstay. Yeah. If ever you needed an old man, that gentleman was sure to be relied on. And his catchphrase was, I don't know, eh?
Yeah,
and
I
again,
don't
that was
know,
something that me and my auntie used to say all the time, I don't know, eh? Yeah. So simple. That's what British comedy is, though. So simple. Paint by numbers.
Yes, yeah. You've just reminded me. Sorry, Pam. There's something I want to shout out to our listeners, and I'll send you a link after this. I found this amazing YouTube channel that I'm sure you will love called "At the Foot of the Stairs," and it's a guy who collects clips of obscure 80s and 90s British sitcoms that no one remembers, that are like terrible. But that's where I saw Arthur in a lot of those videos. And
there's a plethora of, I don't even know if I pronounced that right, of British sitcoms out there. I mean, it was literally, if you had a funny person doing the live stand-up tours, or the working men's clubs and stuff like that, they'd sign them up, knock out a 6-part series, film it, and send it on its way. It would last 2 series, and then it would get cancelled, and something else would go on. But throwing shit at the wall and trying to see what sticks—that's what British comedy was all about back in the day. There's so much shit on the wall, though, I tell you.
Absolutely. We're talking about Mike Bassett, England manager. So this is a 2001 satirical mockumentary comedy film. Now, I will say I have memories of this dropping. So this came out on the 28th of September 2001. I was in year 5. I was in Mrs. Earnshaw's class in a Birmingham primary school.
Shout out to Mrs. Earnshaw, by the way.
Mrs. Earnshaw was a great teacher, lovely woman. And I remember like there was ads for it or whatever. I just remember it was in the ether. Obviously, I never got a chance to watch it. But we had something in school where we all had to write, like in our English class, we all had to write like a little play and perform it. And anyway, my mate Ryan, who I'm still good friends with now, I still see Ryan all the time, he wrote a rip-off of Mike Bassett, England manager, basically. And I can still even remember the joke. I still even remember he was Mike Bassett. And I said, I was like a player on the touchline, and I whispered to someone, I was like, I want a cup of tea. And he misheard it as me saying, I hate my team. And then he got angry at me. I mean, that was the crux of the matter. So it had penetrated, the youth consciousness. Do you have any memories of this film coming out?
Yeah, so my memories of this film, when I was in Australia, I don't remember it coming out, but when I was in Australia, I went for a real kick. This was the 3rd time I went to Australia. I think I was about 22, 23. And I was on my own. I was in a hostel. I met a girl. I moved out of the hostel to an apartment because I wanted to spend time with a girl, and I split up with a girl. So I ended up on my own in an apartment. So I spent a lot of my time watching DVDs of British comedies to try and get myself in that British mindset, because I was sick of Australia, but I couldn't afford to come home. So it was that. It was purely belter. Any British comedy I could find, I was putting on. Just to get the British accent back in and stuff like that. But Mike Bassett was one of them. Can't remember it. Watching it again recently brought back a lot of memories. It was funny in parts, not so funny in others, but it was. Are we allowed to do an overview of the whole film? We can do an
overview. We can do an overview. I mean, we're gonna sort of go through it Royal Ramble style. But in general, what did you think? Because I must say, just to butt in, but as I say, I'd never seen it before, and watching it, I was pleasantly surprised. It is actually pretty entertaining as it goes on.
There were some good jokes in there. I hope you highlight them. I did try and write some down as I went. I mean, the highlight for me was I was really starting to judge it when they did that Benson and Hedges bit.
Yeah.
And they tied it all off at the end with the 20 players joke. And I thought that was marvellous. So it kind of had a purpose, that the poorness had a purpose. It built up to something.
So this is, as you've suggested there, and as kind of is a giveaway from the title, this is a football film. This is a proper British football film. And one of the things I will give it credit for, it's loaded with references, isn't it? I think it works if you don't know football, if you just know Jim Royle or whatever, you just want a British comedy film. But if you're a football head, there are so many nods to things, isn't there? It's insane.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, even the atmosphere in the studio, is it Gabby Logan doing the sort of World Cup with the with the animations at the start and all the over the top graphics. That's exactly what football was about when I was a kid. It was sitting there for 3 minutes of random animations of World Cups coming alive and talking to stadiums, and then you get in with the action, and you'd have 2 people that barely knew what they were talking about rambling on, a bit like what we've got now.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's funny you mention that, actually, because I remember, this would have been 2014, so quite a while ago when I just finished uni, but ITV's Brazil, do you remember they go, Brazil? Like, they just had this weird little melody that would... That was 2014.
I wasn't sure whether this film was... It was an accurate depiction of what was going on at the time. This World Cup didn't correlate with the World Cup in Brazil that we witnessed.
No. This is basically the World Cup this was building towards was the South Korean World Cup in 2002.
It was an imaginary World Cup.
Yeah, but it's kind of, I mean, and that's what's beautiful about the film, as we'll get into it. Like, it does feel real. Obviously, it's completely fantastical, and there are some ridiculous, surreal moments, like the sports lab, for example, and stuff like that. But, you know, there's lots of it.
There's a lot of element of truth there at the same time.
No, definitely. I think that's, you know, that's what satire, that's where its power is. But, okay, so Mike Bassett, England manager, so it comes out in 2001. Basically, just to give you a quick overview of the film, it follows Mike Bassett, played by Ricky Tomlinson, of course, who is a scruffy, loudmouth lout with a heart, who is appointed England manager, having only previous experience managing in English lower leagues, and he is tasked with guiding the team to qualification for the upcoming World Cup in Brazil. And it is a classic sort of, not fish out of water, but, you know, he's kind of over in on his head kind of thing. And what do you think of Ricky's performance in this? Because, you know, other than Jim, this is kind of his defining role, isn't it? And I think people still remember Mike Bassett in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it, but I think Brookside would come second for me.
Brookside's there. I don't think it has the longevity, though, as like, you know, but yeah, Brookside's his defining role, undeniably, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously the royal family is what it'll always be remembered as. But I mean, I'm surprised he got his top off a couple of times in this film, because obviously he's not a skinny man. Oh,
no, it's
play.
It's good to see. Because he's clearly Jim. Like obviously this is just after series 3 ends of the royal family, so it's kind of his big role after that, and you know, arguably he didn't really do anything on that size since. So yeah, it is funny to see him as Jim, like dancing and you know.
He's seen more big roles than Jim, by the way.
The battle rapper over here. Just to look at the crew involved as well, because this is something that I was very interested in. It's directed by someone called Steve Barron, who, you know, isn't necessarily the most famous Steve director out there. Irish filmmaker. This may surprise you though, Pam. He's mostly known for directing music videos. He directed Billie Jean.
Okay, very interesting.
And Money for Nothing as well by Dire Straits. So this guy has a serious project. Film-wise, less so, respectfully. He did Coneheads. He did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the original one.
Coneheads, you know, that was when I was a kid, right? And you had video shops. You didn't have Netflix. You didn't have, you know, torrents where you could download a million things at the same time. You had to go to a video shop. And although I never hired it out, Coneheads always caught my eyes as a cover. A video cover, but I never actually took the plunge and rented it. Which maybe I did once and I didn't enjoy it, and that's why I didn't get it again.
Yeah, I don't think it's no. It's one of those classic, like, it was an SNL sketch and they tried to make it into a film, and they are traditionally quite awful. And it's written by Rob Sprackling and Johnny Smith. Again, fairly no names, although they do a really good job on this film. Probably most known for doing an animated film called Romeo and Juliet, which I haven't seen. I'm familiar with it, but so I mean, it's kind of a bit like the film itself, isn't it? It's like these jobbing men who've not really done much who rise to a higher occasion, I feel. Yeah,
I mean, it was very far-fetched, because what we know now of football, everything is so organised, and to have, you know, the such lacks behind the scenes of the footballers, they are mollycoddled these days and babysat, and they don't get to think for themselves. Everything they eat, etc. But obviously, you did have characters like Gaza back then, so I think that's what they were going for, wasn't it? The more Gazas.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed to the Gary Nevilles.
Yeah. We'll get to Tonka in a second. And one final bit of context then. So the film was a success when it was released. It actually hit number 3 in the box office. This is the week of September 28th to 30th, the weekend. Held off the top spot. Number 2 was Moulin Rouge. And number 1 was Spielberg's AI, Artificial Intelligence. So, I mean, it was going up against some heavy hitters. So we start the film, and we open with a Kevin Keegan quote. And can you just kind of put this into context for us, Pam? Kevin Keegan, Graham Taylor, the documentaries, like, what is because some people might not appreciate that it's kind of aping these sporting moments.
Yeah, so I mean, back in the day, the football managers were I mean, they were English as well. That's the big difference. And I think they made a couple of jokes at the start about that, trying to get foreign managers to take that role. You had a lot of big characters. Ron Atkinson, Sam Allardyce. I thought the character of Mike Bassett was basically just Sam Allardyce, especially in those early scenes. back his career with a moustache.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so we had this documentary, An Impossible Job, which kind of was an insider take on the kind of managerial position, shot in high def. And, the film itself is kind of made to look like it's been shot on that 35mm. And yeah, Bassett is kind of a composite of a few figures, isn't he? And kind of his blundering, everyman kind of way, I suppose.
Heavy Sam Allardyce vibes, though. Heavy. With a moustache in the pictures.
Yeah. So the film opens with tons of news items speaking about Mike Bassett winning the Mr. Clutch Cup at Wembley. And we sort of see his interesting style of tactics where, he's a sort of person that will actually grab the board looking for time and, claiming that they're running out of time and stuff like that. And one of the things, Pam, that really struck me with this film, and one of the things that I think they do very, very well is it's clearly made on a shoestring budget, but the way they include footage from the game and mesh it with him on the touchline, it's really actually quite impressively done for kind of how low budget it is,
You can tell, they've spent a lot of their money going to Brazil because it did look quite budget in a lot of places. When they were at the FA, you could tell it was the actual FA, to the point where the woman who said she was there with his PA, I could have sworn she was the actual woman who works in the FA.
Yeah.
As the PA, because there was no acting chops there. Do you know what I mean? She just looked like a normal woman who was nervous. So very budget. But then, you don't need to go throwing money at special effects for these kind of films. I think it added a certain realness, almost a documentary style. When watching it, yeah.
Agreed, yeah. It has a certain gritty style. It has a certain kind of, endearing element to it. And, I'm not a huge fan of this show, Ted Lasso, but a lot of people compare it to Mike Bassett because it's the same sort of idea of, an American coming over and trying to manage. And they do these similar scenes where he's clearly in a green screen and they've just chopped up some, Premier League B-roll or whatever. But I must say that, Mike Bassett actually looks better. Like, it just kind of, I think part of it as well is you get to see the old Wembley. And, I'm not even a big footy head, but that does stir my cockles when I see those towers,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I went there a few times. I went there with my granddad. A lot of people have got good memories of Wembley, the original Wembley.
They do.
I don't think I've been to the new Wembley, actually. I don't think I've been there.
I actually went to see, weirdly, England versus Lithuania in, 2013, randomly. I'm not even a football fan. But it was Harry Kane's first international goal, I believe, or first domestic England team goal, I suppose, not a tournament.
When was this? Sorry,
Lithuania, maybe
2013,
maybe 14, 15, I think, maybe a bit later than that, 16. I'm trying to remember now again. I'm sure people are screaming.
Been going that long, no?
He's been going a while, but yeah, this kind of opening scene, good writing, subtle writing, kind of underlies the slightly hapless nature of it. I quite like the them winning the cup, Pam, and the team bus going on a tour, but going the wrong way and actually get stuck on the motorway.
However, joy turned to confusion when the driver of the team bus took a wrong turn into the one-way system.
You're heading for the dual carriageway! You're going the wrong bloody way!
20 minutes later, and the team were still braving the chilly conditions.
Hey! You're coming up to the roundabout now! Take a little slip over, head back!
Well, I hadn't watched this film, as I say, in 10, maybe 20 years. And I didn't realise, but I started watching this, and 2 minutes into it, realised that it had gone past the place where I'd worked about 25 years ago when I was about 18, called the Boot Pub. So it was filmed, the opening scenes were actually filmed, apparently, in my hometown, but I knew nothing about it, so I must have been out of the country at the time. So it's supposed to be Norwich, but it's actually in Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
Literally my hometown, yeah.
Well, there's a magic about football, undeniably. There's a romanticism about it that affects people. But away from Norwich, it is reported in the film, in the papers in the film, that England manager Phil Cope has suffered a heart attack during qualification, which started out well but has gone very badly wrong. And then, we go into a great scene that you just alluded to earlier at Lancaster Gate, which was the old home of the FA. And there is lots of in-jokes where they're talking about who can be the manager. They discuss the most successful Premier League manager at the time could do it, but he's Scottish. Wink, wink.
Alex Ferguson.
Ferguson. I think there's a Brian Clough reference. to a loudmouth.
Potentially.
Yeah, could be a few people.
No, yeah, there's a few. I mean, that was about a Scouse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, but even then, you could apply that now, and you could say Steven Gerrard. You know, if you had to recast the England manager now and get rid of Southgate, you'd have to look at Lampard and Gerrard. You'd have to, because they're not. They aren't good enough yet to manage Premier League teams and everything that goes into that. But they could potentially, like Southgate has done, step into that England role.
And
I think there's more pressure in the England role, but at the same time, there's less pressure because you're not doing it on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, the spotlight is incredibly intense, but yeah, it flickers, as it were, rather than being consistent. Yeah,
good analogy. Yeah.
So we have, none of these people seem up for the job, so the FA then look to Division 1 for a manager, which is something that would never happen, right? I mean, I don't think England would ever hire a manager that isn't in the Premier League or a big league. Is that right?
No, although Norwich, when I was a kid, right, when I used to collect Premier League stickers, I think everyone did as a kid.
Panini swag,
Norwich, well, we were Merlin, bruv. See, we were Merlin. We were just a little bit bored before Panini. There's a good documentary on Sky, actually. Sky documentaries about stickers.
Ooh,
and how Panini just took over. Merlin took over Panini's. Yeah, it's really good, actually. Merlin took over Panini, and then Panini fought back and ended up taking it back. But Merlin as a kid, but the Premier League stickers and... where were we again?
We just went Norwich and lower league managers.
Yeah. So Norwich were always a Premier League team when I was a kid. They were a Premier League team. They were like Oldham, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday teams that were on that peripheral. They were Championship, although it's League One back in the day, Championship now. They were going up and down. So I wouldn't class Norwich as an out and out Division 1 back in the day team. Because I don't think they were. They were up and down. The same could be said for a lot of teams. But I think if you were really going to go to the depths, you would have picked a sort of, Preston, someone who never really achieved that Premier League success. But I think Norwich was still fresh from a Premier League run around that time. Yeah. I know they did go up and down. They did go up and down.
Yeah.
So it wasn't completely far-fetched for the manager of a team that was always fighting to get back up in the Premier League to being the manager. I don't think it's that far-fetched.
No, and we learn more about Mike as well, his history, played for Doncaster, Darlington, Grimsby, etc. And an interesting aspect of the film as well, Pam, gets introduced here. We get the voiceover of Martin Bashir, who is also in the film as well. Like, fresh off his... Diana interview. This is pre-Michael Jackson. This is wild. He's like a big fixture of this movie, Martin Bashir.
He's a little celebrity, isn't he? He's one of the, the star-studded cast. When it reminds me of the Spice Girl movie in terms of so many cameos just sort of thrown in there. And you could imagine Martin Bashir following the Spice Girls around in that film instead of, was it Richard E. Grant or someone was following?
Yeah.
Just playing that role, isn't it, of the overseer, the narrator type thing.
Agreed.
Although the narrator in the actual film was Charlie Higson, I believe. Charlie Higson.
Well,
who did a lot of voiceovers.
The Spice Girls knowledge is coming out here. I do appreciate that. I am Spice loyal. But the rumours circulate then, Pam, that Mike Bassett from the lower leagues is to be appointed. And there's a great scene, isn't there, of him avowing his loyalty to the press in the nude at the front of his house, and then his son comes out with the phone, with the antenna out of the phone as well, saying that he has the England job, and obviously he changed his tune there and then.
That's one at a time, one at a time.
Is it true you're the New England manager, Mike?
If I've told you once, I've told you 100 times, lad. I'm the manager of Norwich. My future's here in Norfolk, so forget the rumours and the tittle-tattle, OK? Anything else?
Dad, you've got the England job. The England job.
That joke was telegraphed. You could tell that was coming, when
oh my god!
Yeah, when the phone started ringing, but then they paid it off as well.
They did. What do you think in general, actually, about Ricky's performance in this movie?
Yeah, he did. He did the job. He was just playing Ricky Tomlinson at the end of the day, wasn't he?
Pretty much.
There was no,
pretty much.
No acting chops displayed too much. He just did his bit, didn't he?
Well. Speaking of acting chops, we then get to meet Mike's wife, Karen, played by Amanda Redman, who, she's like a legendary actress. Like, it's great again that she's in this movie.
I recognised her. Yeah, what do I know her from? I definitely recognised her.
She's
Yeah,
a great TV actress. She's New Tricks, excuse me, is probably her biggest thing that she's been in recently. But she's just been on TV for the last 40 years. Like, she's just been around and everything. She was in, New Tricks is her main one, but lots of movies. She's in Sexy Beast as well. She's really good in Sexy Beast. And
was she in that? Was that one about the women prostitutes? Is it from Manchester? It was on about 15 years ago.
Narrow it down, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe, quite possibly. The royalramblepod@gmail.com. Get in touch with us there if you know about Manchester prostitutes, and we'll look into that.
Please do. Locations, price list.
Yeah, anything. NFT
variations,
acceptance.
the work.
And she gets more into Mike's hapless history. He played 14 clubs in 9 different positions. And I love the way the scene ends as well. She just said, like, why are you attracted to him? And she just says quite simply, the glamour is what attracted her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they've got such a standard house, haven't they? They've got such a normal, boring-looking house.
They do.
I was thinking that because at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know if it was different when that was made, but nowadays, anyone involved in football has got a bit of money about them. People not involved in football got a bit of money about them, but these days, a footballing wife or manager, because managers earn as much as the footballers in a lot of cases, everything's decorated. It's a bit dreary in their house, I thought.
It did, yeah. It's an interesting marker of kind of, obviously this was Premier League era, but it was, pre the kind of mega clubs, I suppose, and that kind of whole, that kind of era.
Yeah, explosion of nothing. Sky Sport,
yeah. And it's like, so I'm a big film fan, as I'm sure, everyone likes films, of course, but you do see these things in films, these tropes, where it's like, this is kind of telegraphed a little bit as well. So it's like, I do like that his wife shows the Kipling poem that Mike Bassett's dad gave him, and, but you kind of know, even when she's reading it, you're like, this is going to come back in the last 5 minutes of the film. Like, he's going to quote this, and he's going to use that. But I do like the fact that it ends with the poem. I
was just going to say, it culminates a bit quickly at the end, but it does all quite tie in quite succinctly, and I think that poem, is the main reason that it does tie up so well at the end. Yeah. It's a running thing. You need that in a film.
You do need that in a film. You need that continuity, and the end of the poem as well. And and you'll be a Mason. I love that, and it's called an embroidery error as well. So there's kind of this Mason history in the Bassets there. And Mike is then seen travelling on the train. He's going down to Lancaster Gate. He's being interviewed by Martin Bashir. They're speaking about. You kind of get a feel for Mike here. Mike is like he's got a good set. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's kind of talking about how it's all luck, and kind of. Anyone can kind of do this and no one can do this kind of thing. It's kind of this mania thing. And it's quite interesting that the guy clamping his ticket is someone that he knew from back in the day, which kind of speaks to the kind of disposable nature of managers, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. The managerial merry-go-round, yeah. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of them. There's a lot of them that still are. They get fired from a job and they get hired the next day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then we see Mike enter the hallowed halls of Lancaster, and he meets the chief executive, who seems to have no interest in him at all.
Many chief executives are the same way, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just completely bereft of any kind of intrigue there. And Mike then, he's taken on board. He's taken on as a manager, and just there's some funny lines in here where Mike clearly, harks back to his father, and he talks about his dad, and he says that his dad, he was like a father figure to me, which I loved.
Nice little subtle joke.
Yeah, that was nice. And then Mike then has a press conference, says straight up, on his unveiling that his ambition is to win the World Cup. And good to see Phil Jupiter's there as one of the journalists.
Phil Jupiter's, there was another journalist there as well. I don't know what I know him from, but I know him from a lot of things. He's in a lot of sitcoms. Slightly balding, slightly curly hair. Yeah. Quite big, quite tanned. Don't know what I know him from as well. But yeah, Phil Jupiter's looking skinny, so it must have been a long time ago.
Yeah, hell of a long time ago. Kind of, early sort of Buzzcocks run or whatever. And this is where you sort of
early Buzzcocks.
Very early, the Mark Lamar kind of domain. And, this is where you see the power of Bassett, really, where, you know, he does a rousing speech, and it is really inspiring.
Mike, you seriously think you can do that?
Why not?
You believe we're better than the Germans, the Brazilians, the French, the Argentines?
Excuse me, like people like you always running our country down. I mean, you forget what a great nation we are. I mean, we invented Parliament, we abolished slavery, we defeated Hitler. And then we came up with the computer, the singing telegram, the Bessemer smelting process. And we've had people like Wordsworth and Shakespeare and Dickens, you know, once more into the breach, dear friend, once more. And you know what else we done? We invented football and we gave it to the world. Well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring it back.
Talks about the things that England invented, Parliament, the computer, the smelting process, which I love. He just goes off kilter there. Wordsworth, Shakespeare, and quite powerful, Pam, when he says, we invented football and gave it to the world, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring it back.
So basically, what he's done there is just do the "Football's Coming Home" song in a speech, which, you know, I don't know what come first. What come first? Was it Euro '98 on the "Football's Coming"?
Was it '96 maybe? Because it was in England, wasn't it?
Well, no, it's '96. It was Euro '96. Yeah, it was Euro '96. So I mean, it was just a rehashing of that. I thought if it had preempted the Euro '96 song, then that would have been something exciting, but to this day, people still say football's coming home. I mean, it was an English invention, wasn't it?
I mean, it's disputed, isn't it? It's one of them ones.
Well, who else is saying who else is claiming it then? Who else is standing atop
Some
that
Bolivian
massive
guy
football with their flag stuck in it? Bolivia, Uruguay. I mean, they used to win World Cup. Surely they got a claim on it, but
I mean, it's the world's game, isn't it? But
not. It's our game, Tom.
It's bloody yeah, exactly.
Pull your red and white trousers up, your boxer shorts, and admit that it's a British game invented by British people.
So Bassett takes over the England team, and he moves to appoint his coaching staff. And so we have his assistant manager, Lonnie, who is a used car salesman who seems more interested in selling cars, which is a fun little tick in his character. And also, this was just a shock to me, Bradley Walsh from The Chase. He is Dave Dodds.
Yeah, he was just another comedian that was trying his luck, wasn't he? Trying to get in that film role. But he didn't have many lines, did he? You would have forgot he was in it.
Yeah, he's quite funny in it, in that he's a sycophantic yes man who all his lines are essentially repeating Bassett's lines. But I feel like in that role, as a kind of slightly manic, cheeky, chappy arse licker, like, I think he's quite decent in the film, Bradley Walsh.
Yeah, he doesn't do a bad job. Where do I recognise the other guy from? The car salesman?
I don't know. Philip Jackson. He's called the actor.
The Bill or something like that?
Oh, everyone's been in The Bill, yeah. But
he's on some sort of police, or he's a policeman or something.
Yeah, he's in Brastoff. I don't know if you've seen Brastoff. He's also in... he's actually in... He's in Scum, apparently. The classic Ray Winston film, which I'm quite a fan of, but I don't remember him. I'm really going to, next Halloween, I'm going to dress as him from Scum, and I'm going to put an orange in a sock. I thought of that the other day. That is a good costume. So the team get together, and basically they need one win from 3 World Cup qualifiers to get to the World Cup finals in Brazil. And did I get it, Tom? Well, you'll have to listen to the end of the podcast to learn that. But again, loads of these footballers, pretty much every character in the squad is based on, some sort of English archetype. And the first one we meet is Kevin Tonkinson, Tonka, who is just kind of Gaza incarnate, right? So that's the Geordie guy? Yeah. Yeah, Gaza, yeah. He's Gaza, definitely, yeah. I can't think of any other heavily influenced characters other than Gaza on that one. Yeah. No. Although it was a strange choice to give him long hair. But... Yeah. I guess they couldn't be accused of doing a complete portrait there. But yeah, he's an alcoholic. He's often in trouble. He's the most gifted player on the team. I mean, he's often crying. Often crying. Exactly. Yeah, they do that as well. And this is one of my favourite parts of the film, where we see the first game. We get into the footy scenes, the touchlines. Wait, what about the other characters? Where did you get? I had Ian Wright for the striker that couldn't score. I had Andy Cole. Yeah, Andy Cole's a good one, because he was played for Newcastle, didn't he? Yeah, but for me it was more about the goal drought and stuff like the international goal drought, which I think was more Andy Cole from my research. But yeah,
the slight baldness as well would play on there because I think Ian Wright had a lot more head of hair.
Yeah, so that's Rufus Smallsy Smalls, Trinidad-born Newcastle United centre forward, who you've just mentioned. Wacko. I mean, that could be many people. The hard tackling captain. I mean, I saw a kind of Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie Jones heavily, and then you got the psychos. You got Stuart Pearce, but Vinnie Jones / Stuart Pearce. Yeah, Butcher to a certain extent, but Vinnie Jones because of that you could tell that he was playing a character and over.
Oh yeah, he was. Doing
it was Vinnie Jones, but with elements. Yeah.
Steve
it was
Walsh
Vinnie Jones with elements. So which one was he?
Steve Walsh again. Let me just look at because he was a striker for most Leicester City.
Because I had it because the guy was it.
He was at Leicester City in the late 90s.
Oh, right, so in terms of influences.
Yeah, I just thought he... Oh, sorry,
right,
yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't face him. Yeah.
Steve Walsh, yeah. So we had... we had Harpsey, who was the kind of clearly Beckham, right? Yeah.
No, I thought he was the weakest of the lot. I thought he was the weakest.
Agreed.
I didn't really get into his character throughout the film. I think they could have done a better job with having a sort of, flamboyant playboy type.
Yeah.
And also they could have had a foreign. They could have had not a foreign, but do you know what I mean? That foreign player, maybe his dad was born in England, but he's really whatever, They could have done that because you could tell it wasn't done in the last 10 years because there was a few, race angles there. God, well, which I don't mind in a film.
No, I don't mind it. I mean, we'll get to Tonka in his hotel room, but there is a line that would never go out on a film these days.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and
it
wasn't that long ago as well.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, I was only in year 5, so it wasn't even that long ago.
And then the other guy, I didn't look this up, Tom, I'm afraid, but the guy who ends up being the captain, is it Medley or something?
Yeah. Is that the soft-spoken one, or is that the one who's like in the double act?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the soft-spoken one. So I believe the actor there used to be in Ideal. Do you remember Johnny Vegas's Ideal?
I do remember Ideal, yeah.
Am I wrong there? Have you got IMDb up in your...
I can have a little look. But yeah, he is... So I saw him as being based on like Gary and Phil Neville.
Yes, that's where I was going as well. Yeah. Gary Neville, yeah. The sort of Diddy Two Shoes almost.
Yeah, the sort of, timid, talented kind of player.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of world there. And then, yeah, we have... I didn't really know who those were based on, but you have Dino and Danny, the kind of double act.
I mean, the white one in that, he looks a hell of a lot like Phil Foden now. That's what I was getting.
I mean, yeah, they're very anticipatory, yeah.
And was he, again, something I didn't research before coming on, but that actor, was that impressionist from about 10 years ago? He used to do a programme on Channel 4. He was an impressionist.
Okay.
If you could look that up for me, if you've got your computer handy. Because I honestly thought it was him. He used to do a sketch. It was Ross Kemp on drugs, but he was actually on drugs.
I remember the Ross Kemp. Yeah. I remember the sketch. Okay. But
remember that guy?
I do recall him. But we have broke down the team there. That is the team, and they're all kind of late 90s kind of stereotypes kind of thing. And we see Bassett. He gives his first team talk to the lads. And he's British as fuck, isn't he, Pam? He's sticking to his 4-4-2.
He is. I mean, it annoyed me a little bit, just the haphazardness of it. I think what I was thinking throughout the whole of that scene was, even 20 years ago, however long it was made, football isn't like that. Everything is done on computers. No one's opinion matters until it's been processed through 3 or 4 different people. It was almost like a complete suspension of belief and reality.
It was almost like a comedy. It was almost like a comedy.
Well, it was, Tom, but what you've got to understand is that there needs to be an element of realism in anything you watch. Otherwise, you are just living in Fantasyland. And unfortunately, I grew up not reading novels. I need an element of realism, especially in something as real as football.
I hear you, Pam. And, it does feel real, to me at least, this film, because we get these aerial shots now of Wembley, all the fans walking down Wembley Way. I love the fact that they have interviews with some of the fans, and they're talking about the fake players that we just met as if they're real.
England win 3-0, easy days. Come on, happy days. Tonka's going to go straight down the middle. 1-0, third minute. Come on, England. Poland, bunch of fucking muppets. Weapon 3-1, easy. Away!
Tonka straight down the middle, and they call Poland a bunch of fucking muppets, which I really like as well. Just some random fans, and
you wouldn't get away with that even these days, would you?
I was thinking that.
You wouldn't get away with that. Yeah.
You just couldn't say.
So as simple as that.
Yeah, I can't say, oh, fucking Paraguay are a bunch of twats. Like, you just can't say that.
Yeah,
even though you
can't. Do you know what it is? You can't do it anymore. I mean, it's something that people don't care about these days, but that's why battle rap died, because you can't be mean to anyone anymore. You can't do it. You can't be unnecessarily mean to anyone anymore. It's done.
You're right.
That's done.
Well,
so same Paraguay, whatever. Yeah, you can't do it.
And if there's any Paraguayan listeners out there who love the Royle family, I don't mean it. We're just trying to make a point here. But anyway, so Bassett's first game, Tonka opens the scoring with a dink shot over the keeper, but Poland soon begin to put the pressure on and eventually equalise before going on to win the game 2-1. And there's a great graphic here, isn't there, Pam? Sort of spelling out how outdated the 4-4-2 system is.
Which one was that? It
was just like a computer graphic, and it just sort of showed you that, just showed you how simple it and how easy it is to beat, and that sort of stuff. And Bassett loses his first game. He's critiqued by the media for the tactics used. And then we also see some...
I was just saying about how ridiculous it was. That is very realistic that England lose their first big game under a new manager, because it happens time and time again.
No, it's true. It's true. And I mean, as if to underline the incompetence there, Bassett and his coaching staff, they're trying to review the game, but Dodds' wife taped ground force over the recording.
Again, see, I'm not going to analyse it too much, but there's no way they'd be watching the game on a TV that I used to have in my bedroom with an attached VCR on it.
Yeah.
There's just no way that would happen, but I mean, obviously it made for the comedy element, but I was sitting there shouting at the TV going, there's no way that would happen.
Well, I think we're slightly different in this regard. For me, it's suspension of disbelief. They're just trying to make you laugh. They're just piss-taking. They're just kind of poking at these stereotypes rather than trying to have any degree of verisimilitude. And that is sort of emphasis.
I think this film was made before that invisible door was broken down and we actually really knew what went on behind the scenes in these football clubs.
Yeah, before the big Man City docs and all that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was an idea that the fans were ignorant to what went on behind the scenes back in the day. Because that wasn't it. And even the scene where they were all in that bath at the end, I don't think that happened. Surely. I mean, I'm thinking of a time now, but health and safety wouldn't have allowed that, would it? I just don't know.
I didn't remember you were such a killjoy, Pam. But no, still, that is true. I suppose health and safety wouldn't have allowed this fictional film to happen. So we go into the science lab sequence, which is quite a wild sequence. That this is the kind of, I guess it's that sneering, that late 90s look at what modern football was becoming with all the kind of, the sabermetrics and all this sort of idea here. But I love the joke of the AI machine where they're facing these robots based on the best players in the world. Pele, Maradona, and Mark Lawrenson as they ran out of money somewhere.
That was an inside joke.
Yeah.
That was an inside joke. That was written by someone who knew Mark Lawrenson personally.
yeah.
Because what a random name to pluck out.
It is. But we do see, Pam, that it's affecting Bassett's family as well. He's mocked in the press conference. His son's getting bullied and having eggs thrown at him. I guess that's real as well, maybe.
That is real, yeah. And this is what I mean by sort of the slightly more outrageous ideas of what goes on. There's a lot of comedy to be had in the realism of it all, or drama and stuff like that. it does affect people's real lives, the decisions made by these footballers on a day-to-day basis. That's why there's so much pressure involved. And that's why there's so much money involved at the end of the day, because they are under scrutiny constantly. Mm-hmm. And that's not, you have to, the money compensates that scrutiny, because it's not easy to live with.
So that's the second game that they have, England. They lose it 3-0. And, Mike, we can see now, is obsessed, can't let it go, doesn't bow to the pressure, says that his dad knew pressure, with a wife in bed with arthritis, working all week. Went out Saturday, scored 3 of his head, 5 kids, And he also mentions, he says, try storming a Japanese fortification with 3 bullets in your tummy, taking one in the chest and going on to get a VC. I mean, his dad didn't do that, but someone did. So, it's a lot of that sort of humour.
That's a good show.
Yeah, I love that. And, again, Ricky just sells it brilliantly. And he is different to Jim Royle in this, which is what I like. He's playing a far more energetic, compassionate,
definitely,
kind of different character. He's not just being the slob that he's done before.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really exciting as a Royal Family fan as well, to watch it. So this game then, the next qualification game, the last qualification game against Slovenia, where they struggle to a 0-0 draw, and they employ kind of more fanciful tactics here, Pam. The Christmas tree, the 3-5-1-1, as it's put.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when that all come back in the day, all these sort of fancy ideals of European style play. Mm-hmm. The Christmas tree was the most popular one, yeah. And that's the one I remember as a kid.
It's all like inverting the pyramid is what they say and all that sort of stuff, isn't it? And
Yeah, but ironically, sort of the 4-4-2 is now seen as a formation that covers the pitch the most wholesomely. So, because every situation is covered in the 4-4-2. So a lot of modern managers have actually reverted back to that 4-4-2.
Now that is interesting.
System.
That is interesting.
Because it is so reliable, and there's always a player to cover that position. Well, the idea is that you've got 10 men on that pitch. Obviously, you've got a man in goal. You've got 10 other men, and you need to cover the space. So people started thinking outside the box and saying, well, instead of setting up 4-4-2, being heavy defence, midfield, and light on attack, what if we pushed people outwards and wide and, created this space here and shuffled? Football is so tactical these days, it's incredible. But the 4-4-2 is a very popular formation to this day, despite the criticism that our man Mike Bassett received.
Our man Bassett, yeah.
Not forward-thinking enough, those journalists.
No, Jupiterus and his ilk. So it doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter that they get this draw, where essentially Gary Wackett gets sent off and Rufus Small misses a penalty, because Luxembourg beat Turkey 2-0 and they go through on goal difference, which is like the most English thing ever, right?
It's embarrassing and it's disappointing all the same. The fact that they were cheering really sums up the ideology of the film, because scraping by and being lucky. But then it's the English way, isn't it? Just find yourself the last one alive, and oops, I've won the war.
Yeah, it is very much so like that. And then, we see these scenes of them, having a riot in the dressing room, and, Tonka in the jacuzzi, and I agree actually about what you're saying, because those shots of the football players being in the jacuzzi, being in the pool, that feels like very 70s to me. That doesn't really feel like 90s. It feels like a bygone era. It
does. Archaic.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I meant, And health and safety, they're all sweating and they're all getting in that bath together. It just seemed a bit.
Oh yeah, no, someone's getting a cold. But we then get another. So dotted throughout the film, Pam, are these quotes from old ex-England managers. So we get one just saying at this point, if history's going to repeat itself, I think we can expect the same thing again. I like how the film kind of nods towards these predecessors and kind of acknowledges a kind of, a curve, a theme, I suppose, for these managers.
It is a theme, and we're still experiencing it to this day. There's not been a situation where we've broken out of that funk. We're in a constant cycle of hope, belief, expectation, and then disappointment. It's just that cycle. As an England fan, we never quite do it. We're always there. We've got the best players in the world. We've got the best team in the world. We've got the best fans in the world. We're positive. We're successful. these players win Champions Leagues and they get voted the best players in Europe consistently, and yet we can't do it on the big stage because we're England. It's built into us. We're destined to fail.
No, you're right. It's inherent. It's rinse and repeat. You know, it's agonising. But there is a light here in the film, because you know, one of the things that I love, Pam, is like early 2000s, late 90s UK culture. And the team, because they're heading off to Brazil, they then head off to record their official England World Cup song. And this is with girl group Atomic Kitten and Hellraiser Keith Allen. Two-thirds of Atomic Kitten.
Which one was missing? Was it Katona?
I believe it was, yeah. Let me get up some... I was looking at the IMDb just before we started this call, and there was an interesting bit of trivia on that. But what did you think about Atomic Kitten and Keith Allen having some cameos in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what it was? The two girls in the fact that the main one wasn't there, and I believe it was Katona, because surely she's the third out of those three girls.
Yeah.
It seemed like you wouldn't know if you walk past those two ladies in a club. You wouldn't think, oh, look, there's two-thirds of Atomic Kitten. You'd think, I wonder what those two ginger lasses are doing. Do you know what I mean? They're not celebrities. Keith Allen, I know who Keith Allen is, but if you're talking about Atomic Kitten, I wouldn't know who the two-thirds that appeared on that were, which had a whiff of, we tried to get Atomic Kitten and then two-thirds showed up. Whereas I think if that was a single, you wouldn't have had that.
No. Well, I found the fact. So Kerry Katona was already out the group at this point. She had recorded vocals on Whole Again, which I think everyone will agree is probably the best Atomic Kitten song. But
ironically, that her last song with them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's lost on no one, that bit of irony. But apparently, Keith Allen's young daughter at the time, Lily Allen, she provided lead vocals on the team song. And that was due to Atomic Kitten member Natasha Hamilton having been hospitalised with a ruptured appendix just days before the film was to be recorded. So, yeah.
It was a legitimate, yeah. In my head, watching that scene back, Kerry Katona, I clocked that they didn't say Kerry couldn't make it, so I knew it wasn't Kerry. But I thought Kerry Katona has got something better to do. These two girls have shown up, and bless them, but at the same time, if it was an official England song, they would have had all three there. So it seemed a bit filmy, that. It seemed a bit, what a shame they couldn't get all three girls, you know.
And, you know, it's a great little music video, almost, of them sort of recording it and singing it and stuff like that. It's on me head, son, not off me head, son. Like, what do you make of the tune? I think in the universe of the world, it makes sense, and it feels like a kind of Free Lines knockoff that would come out, you know.
England! And England have qualified for the World Cup finals in Brazil. It's on me head, son, not off me head, son. It's on me head, son, not off me head, son.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It created that vibe. It did the job. It created that vibe, yeah. I'm not going to complain too much about the fake song.
So yeah, the song is recorded, and there's lots of shots of all the players and stuff like that getting in the studio, and it's very sort of live aid sort of thing. And the team then arrive in Brazil as this song's being playing, and we get all these shots of Brazil and all the kind of Ipanema Beach and all this kind of idea like that. And Bassett, so they've landed. Bassett, like any manager, and it made me laugh because I'm like, this is not what Fabio Capello would do when they land in the World Cup. He's not going to go sort out the coach and the transport. But he heads off. And then we have like a little face-off, Pam, between the English guys, the Scottish guys and the Irish players.
Aye. Again, that would never happen. There would never be a scenario where Ireland would get in a World Cup. Not recently, anyway. Well, they probably have done now. Someone's going to be like, oh, no, Ireland got in full.
No, yeah, that is kind of truly fantastical, maybe. Maybe that is the most unbelievable element of the film.
Do you know what it was? I picked Ireland out of Ireland and Scotland as well there. I mean, Scotland as well are crap, but it was they kept the Welsh out there because they knew that Gareth Bale and Ramsey were coming through, and that Wales' fortunes were going to be completely turned around.
Maybe so. Maybe there's some soothsaying there. But not only
there's a couple of Welsh guys laughing at us all.
There are not only do we have royalty in the sense of Keith Allen, Atomic Kitten, etc. There are lots of big footballers in this film as well, legit footballers. And we cut to, at this point in the film in Brazil, Pelé. R.I.P. Pele, just recently passed.
Rest in peace.
Absolute legend. And interviewed by Martin Bashir. And I love this scene.
If Maradona was the hand of God, Pele was the rest of him.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's very poetic. Well, and this is a great scene where Martin Bashir is asking Pele about who might win the World Cup, and he says Italy, Germany, and then he's pushed to, imagine a rogue tier of clubs like Yugoslav, he says, United States.
See, that dated the film, no?
Yeah.
Yugoslavia,
yeah, it's an interesting little marker there. But obviously the joke is, he just can't bring himself to even suggest England might win. It's just
that wasn't a joke, Tom. That was genuinely real footage that was filmed at the time. No, that's the sort of thing that you would genuinely hear people say, because England are always just that main group, that Italy, that Argentina, that Brazil, the teams that have proved that they can win because they have won. Spain, Germany, France, these teams have won the World Cup in recent time. England haven't. That's why we will be an outsider until we win it. England, until we do it, until we actually prove that we can do it, we will always be an outsider. We are always nearly there. We're never there. And we can't expect people like Pele to put us in the category of France, Spain, Argentina, Brazil until we win it. It's our own fault. That wasn't a joke, Tom. That was real life.
No. And clearly it's burnt, so we will move quickly on. So, we then get Bassett speaking to the team in the hotel. And this had sort of Qatar vibes for me in a certain way here, Pam. I don't know if you caught on that, but it's kind of like, he's telling the team to respect the country. They're in someone else's country now. And Lonnie, the assistant team manager, the car salesman, is quick to say what Bassett really means is be careful around these wops as they'll take your luggage. And I was like, no one says this anymore. Like, that was crazy.
No. Oh, you wouldn't get away with that these days.
And it's funny,
I'm
surprised by it, but obviously we're big into battle rap, but there was a whole incident around that word, because Soul said it to Caustic, I don't know if you remember that, but there was a whole thing about, so that was maybe a bit too modern for your tastes, but that was quite a moment. And we mentioned before all the lame, jerky, janky, but really endearing TV interstitial animations. And I love, we have Gabby Logan here, and we see Mike Bassett as a comet approaching Earth before World Cup begins.
It's just ridiculous, far-fetched, but again, it's part of my youth. I remember that. World Cups come every 4 years, and you build the build up to it, and then the aftermath, and it's such an event for people. You look forward to it, and while it's going on, you're soaking it all up. So programs like the World Cup commentary and stuff like that, and also everyone in the country is sitting down watching that program at 7:00 in the evening on Wednesday night. Everyone in the country is sitting down watching that program. So everyone in the country on Monday morning or Thursday morning or whatever is talking about the same thing. So it's really relatable for everyone. It's that sort of stuff.
No, exactly. Because that's what I love about the World Cup. So we're recording this in January 2023. So obviously we've just had the World Cup pass. And funnily enough...
you say January, obviously the World Cup's just passed. For anyone listening to this
that's true, that's true.
5, January World Cup. So.
But what you just said about the World Cup is so true, and I completely agree. But I think almost on a more global level, like, I remember with my girlfriend, we were watching Morocco knock Portugal out, which was an unbelievable match. And it was just fun to think that, God, all around the world, all these different time zones, all these different nationalities, humanity is watching the same thing. Like, it's lovely, even beyond sport. It's just a nice kind of notion to exist here.
One aspect of it is why his family got spec, because it's not just a club. It's not just Manchester United fans. It's luxury. So all of his school friends, all of their parents are dissing this kid's dad. Everyone is against them when they're losing. So it's the whole country. That's why it's a pressure cooker, because the whole country going against this one person who they blame for the unsuccess of these 11 men that can't score a goal.
And
It's
what
crazy.
did you
The
think?
pressure
of
cooker. It's a
it is,
pressure
it
cooker.
is insane. It's broiling. What did you think of the clip of Mike on the satellite interview and the time delay and him answering the wrong questions?
First, though, we're going to go live to Mike Bassett. He's enjoying life by the pool in Rio. Mike, I've got your old pal Barry Venison here with me.
Mike, how are you doing?
Hey, Barry, how are you doing, son?
I'm just saying, mate, how are you doing? Are you keeping well?
Hello?
Are you looking forward to the tournament then?
You know, confident, son, quietly confident.
Tell you what, you look as if you're enjoying yourself, don't you? What's that you're drinking?
No, they're looking after us fine, thank you.
I bet you've got your fishing rod with you as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a pina colada, a large one.
I thought they were going to go for a two Ronnies aspect of it, where it was going to be comical what answer he said wrong, and it aligned perfectly. But they didn't do that. They kept it a bit more ambiguous, which fair play. They did. They could have gone full force into that joke, and they didn't, which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah,
because that joke's been done to death. Where what's your name? Who was the last person who had sex with Adam Taylor? So it's like, every whatever next question is funny but it makes no sense in the real world.
No, you never.
They kept it real. Yeah,
you never go full Ronnie. So yeah, no,
it would have gone. It would have been too slapstick if they'd gone silly questions just to appease an answer that was related to the last question.
So England then have their first match, which is Egypt, and they manage a goalless draw with unfancied Egypt. And I really like the kind of shift here that they do in tone. So, Mike's getting onto the team bus after, and the fans are giving him stick. But rather than them just calling him a twat or whatever, they actually give sound, practical advice that he sort of listens to, realises probably the right course of action, and then tells them to fuck off and gets on the bus. I thought that was a nice...
Starts off with telling them off for swearing, and then ends up swearing at them. Nice little arc. Nice little comedic arc.
Beautiful narrative arc there.
Beautiful.
And Mike is then, kind of at a low ebb, watching some TV in Brazil, showing England fans doing what they do best, causing aggro. But hang on, it's Vinnie Jones himself, it's Wacko, in the mix. And, the fans outside the hotel singing "You're shit and you know you are," and all that kind of idea as well. And, it seems like all hope is lost here. And it kind of is to a certain extent, where they play Mexico. And probably the most famous scene in the film, I'd say, Pam, with Mike's expletive-riven team talk at half-time.
Half-time in La Bombonera Stadium, and England trail Mexico by 2-0.
Have you heard what the crowd is shouting? Bastards, bastards, bastards! They shouldn't be shouting at me! They should be shouting at you! And do you know why? Because it's half-time and we're 2-0 down to the Mexicans! Wrong with you! Get your fingers out! Where's your bottle gun? And come and pay attention when I'm talking to you! If you don't want to wear the shit off, there's thousands of kids out there who die put that shit on! Back on the field, show what you can do, or off home on a plane! You got that?
England lose 4-0.
He went in on them. It was the scene where he was kicking off the psycho geezer. Yeah, that was a good scene. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and Jim just goes crazy. Sorry, Jim, I'm calling him now. Ricky, Mike Bassett goes crazy. And he is kind of Jim abroad, yeah. But although Jim has never been abroad, as we've discussed in the Royal Rumble.
What was his character called in Brookside? Do you remember who he was in Brookside? Because he was quite famous.
Yeah, someone Grant, wasn't it? Sheila Grant and someone else.
Was it? It was the mum from Brookside that played his wife in it, wasn't it?
Sue Johnston, yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, Sue Johnston.
Sue Johnston. She was in something I watched recently, actually. What was she in that I watched recently, Tom?
The camera that I've set up in your house isn't working at the moment, unfortunately, so I'm not sure.
All right. So, what as a royal family, podcaster and therefore expert, do you not know what Sue Johnson might have been in that was on recent
stuff? Was it Help? Was it Time? She's been in a few things. Yeah.
I'll have to have a good think about that. But yeah, she's a great actress as well in her own right.
She is.
Yeah.
I mean, she's such a talent. She's a brilliant actress.
That's Royal Family was so good because every single character was played by a superb actor.
Agreed.
Everything popped. Yeah.
So it's just it's the cut for me here that's so brilliant. It's Mike Bassett going absolutely crazy, bleeping his arse off, and it's even funnier because it's bleep, 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 and you can kind of work out what he's saying. He's chucking stuff. It's kind of, there was that, I remember when I was a kid, and there was that big news story about Alex Ferguson, like, chucking a football boot at David Beckham or something, you know. Hair dry treatment, exactly, and it's that whole sort of thing, and it's kind of playing on those archetypes. And, you're watching this team talk and you're thinking, hey, this is quite rousing, maybe. And then it just cuts to Mexico win 4-0. And it just cuts to that straight away. And, Mike is Mike's in the press conference and getting lots of hassle, and Jupiter's is there, and, Mike is saying all the journalists.
Tell by the time that it wasn't time for us to win yet. You could tell they were going to lose this one as well.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And, he gets annoyed, and Mike then afterwards is kind of down in the dumps, and Tonka gets involved and gets some drinks, and we then see, as you mentioned earlier, we see a topless Mike Bassett, Pam, just kind of dancing the robot on top of a bar.
Really good scene. I really enjoyed that scene. Before I went to a WrestleMania, I always wondered what happened at WrestleManias. I'm looking forward to, we're going to go to the World Cup when it's in Canada, Vancouver, in 4 years. And I'm excited to see what happens at a World Cup. But in my mind, the manager of the national team is dancing topless in bars. So I can't wait to see whether that is actually, Southgate's nipples presented to me in their full form or not. Whether Southgate's still going to be in charge.
I don't believe he has nipples, respectfully.
No, he does. He has 3, actually.
Oh, he does?
Okay. He does. 1 point's left, 1 point's right, and 1 point's the direction the ball ended up during his penalty taking in the 1990s. Okay.
So, we have a little crossover here because Mike is obviously in the bar, and Pele he's being interviewed outside and then walks in and says, Christ, it's the English. I mean, I think they used Pele well in this movie.
Yeah, no, they really did. I was just thinking that, actually, at the time he was walking in, and he's a good celebrity to use as well, because Maradona, if they did Maradona instead of Pele, obviously it was in Brazil, so they would use Pele because of that, but had it been Maradona in that scenario, you could almost imagine Maradona jumping on a bar and joining in with him, but Pele's always been such a wholesome character. It really did create a juxtaposition there.
So this goes viral in the British press, to coin a word that wasn't really around back then. We see Sky News, old school Sky News, with old school Natasha Goplinsky on screen, and Mike's Japes is going worldwide. People know about this manager going mental. We even see old Ronaldo, not Cristiano, old Ronaldo asking who is Mike Bassett. I mean, again, that's mad they got him involved, right, Pam?
I mean, he's one of the best players in the world ever. On FIFA, the game FIFA, he's the most expensive player that's available on there. It's a game played by a lot of people around the world. And I packed him on New Year's Eve. I packed 96 rated Ronaldo, so that makes me the best FIFA player in the world.
It sounds like it. No, I'm convinced.
Do you know what? I still can't bloody win with the best player in the game, and I still can't bloody win a game. I've been losing all day. It's a nightmare. I literally can't buy a win. But no, I got Ronaldo. I packed Ronaldo. I've got him in my team. So when I saw him on the TV, I thought, yeah, you're one of my boys. And he winked at me. He did wink at me.
Oh, he did? Okay. Well, so we have another press conference after this. Mike
Fat Ronaldo, his name is. By the way.
I didn't want to say his slur name, but yeah, he is known as Fat Ronaldo. Yeah, that is how he's known, unfortunately. And Phil Jupiter is there. He says, "We don't want you in the press conference. Even your wife has left you." And it's kind of a again, we mentioned this at the start of the movie, that he's going to quote something, Bassett, towards the end, and he starts to quote the poem that we heard before, the Kipling thing, and it's nice that he ends all of this poetry with some curt Britishness and just says, "Ladies and gentlemen, England will play 4-4 fucking 2." So Argentina is next, and it's a close game in which England are the better team. And they eventually succeed when Tonka dribbles past the defence and blasts a shot that deflects off the crossbar and then punches the ball into the goal, which is a nice hand of God reference, right? They had to do it.
Yep, tasty, yeah, tasty. Yeah, there's not much more you can say about it. It was done. You knew why they did it. They did it. It was a bit of justice for the English fan, although it wasn't real justice at all. But we can imagine for a second that somewhere in the world, in alternate realities out there, there's an English striker. There's a Gary Lineker who's palming the ball into the back of an Argentine net to successfully get us through to the next round of a major tournament. And I shall be a fan in that other reality, and I shall be cheering just as loud as I was when I watched it on the TV earlier.
Well, here's the problem though, Pam. So, it is a happy ending, and England then progress into the World Cup.
A lot of time a hand is moved vigorously in that way, a happy ending.
Hey, there we go. Look, this battle rap is never off over here. So, the problem is, though, Pam, and a lot of people have this complaint about the film, and it is definitely my major complaint. So, England beat Argentina in the film, and apparently they beat Romania and France as well, eventually losing to Brazil in the semi-finals, the host. But we don't see any of that. We just see, a series of newspaper articles. Clearly they ran out of budget. They just didn't have the money to do anything more.
I know, it was literally, do you know what it was? I mean, I knew the film was an hour and 25 minutes long.
Yeah.
We're about an hour and 10 minutes into it, and I thought, right, we just got into the group stages or whatever, approaching the last game. What is going? We're going to lose because there's no time left to tell the story of what happens in the next rounds. It's literally like being invited to your uncle's 12th wedding anniversary, turning up, eating the starter, and then having to leave before the main course is put on the plate.
Agreed.
Being told about what it was. Oh, there was really nice sausages and the potatoes were to die for. Well, why didn't I get to sit down and enjoy them? And that's what happened at the end of this film. I was left hungry and excited for something that I didn't get to enjoy.
Yeah, it's a real shame, really, that this happens.
Yeah.
And I understand why it did happen, and I had exactly the same thought in my head.
Do you understand why it didn't happen?
I have no...
Surely the whole point of the film is that getting into the finals. It's such a letdown, Tom.
Yeah.
It dampens the whole film because of that. Because it was good. It was a good film. There was good jokes in it. As far as British films go, I mean, we watched The Full Monty on New Year's Eve together, me and my wife. And it was a good film. There was good jokes. And the payoff at the end was... Begbie from Trainspotting getting his knob out for a bunch of girls, and we felt happy, we felt satisfied at seeing that. But to not see the semi-finals, whatever, it's, do you know what it was? It felt like watching a simulator. You know when you play sensible soccer, whether Football Manager, and it's just this culmination of, this happened, that happened, this was exciting, that was exciting. It's not exciting because you're telling me after the event, and it was a disappointing end to a good film.
No, I agree. So essentially what happens is that we're told that they eventually lose to host nation Brazil in the semi-finals. Phil Jupitus, we should show, we haven't really touched on this, but he's called Tomo Thompson. He mentioned that he would become a bin man if they beat Argentina, and we see him working as a bin man as well, which is nice. And then on the plane back to Britain, Martin Bashir says to Bassett that England had equalled their best performance since they won in '66. In 1990, England had finished fourth at this point. And Bassett replies that he's ready to move aside and let someone else take the job. And as the plane doors open at the airport, the team depart to a cheering crowd, where a surprised but happy Bassett confirms to the waiting press that he will remain as manager. Now, there is a DVD... me and Pammy watched it online. It's on YouTube, this film. But there is a DVD with 45 minutes of extra scenes and the director's commentary as well. So there is more information out there if you want it. But did you know, Pam, and I didn't know this until doing research, There's a whole Mike Bassett TV show with 6 episodes.
I did know that because the reason that it's taken us so long to film this is because I sat down to watch this film about 2 weeks ago when we were originally going to record, and I realised after about 25 minutes that I'd been watching the TV series as opposed to... So that's what held me up so much, because I was a bit dejected after sitting through 25 minutes of what I believed to be the film to find out that, in fact, no, I had to start at the beginning again. It was very much like losing a save on a crap computer game.
Yeah,
and having to start beginning. It's a shame. Do you know what? Thinking about it now, Tom, you've really put a dampener on my evening, if I'm being honest.
Pam, I
was genuinely high about the film. It was such a disappointing end, wasn't it? I'm wondering now, is there an original version of the script for what actually was supposed to happen? Because surely that wasn't it.
Well,
it's quite a film, wasn't it?
Yeah, so this is on the Wikipedia page, but this is from the DVD itself. So an alternate ending was shot for the film, in which Mike rejects a 4-year extension to stay on as manager of England, choosing to appoint a foreign manager as his replacement, and the film ends with Mike jumping on board a red Jeep and driving off with his teammates. So yeah, that's a weird ending. But I'll have to check out the TV show because it was directed and written by the same people. So I'm sure it's very much in that vein, yeah. But it's more about him. He takes over in EFL League 2, right? He's like lower league football rather than national.
I can't remember. Right. As soon as I realised that I didn't have to remember what was going on, it disappeared from my brain and was replaced by a simulation of the entrance, the opening music to the Magic Roundabout. I was trying to work out how many loops it did before it started again.
So apparently, the film when it came out as well, received a bit of a mixed reception, but it has now gone on to become a bit of a cult classic. And
has it?
It has, actually. It definitely has. And well, I must say I was surprised. Like, I am not this sycophantic Royle family head. Like, I call things out for what they are, and I'm just honest with my fandom. And I really enjoyed this film. It's not a classic, but I think it's definitely not bad. There's a lot of funny moments, there's a lot of good cameos, it's well edited, Ricky's terrific, it's got a good energy. I'd recommend the movie, I really would.
I mean, I don't avoid it, do you know what I mean? If it's on ITV2 or whatever on a Thursday night, watch it. Tom, who's your favourite character from the Royle family?
Wow, my favourite character? Probably Nana.
The Nana. And who's your worst character?
I really can't point to a worse. I don't think any of the characters are bad. Because, Pam, I don't know how big you are in the Royle family, kind of, the pantheon, but there is a divide between the original show and the 4 specials that they did.
Yeah, we don't count them. No.
So I could name a character from them, but if we're doing the original run, I literally can't name a bad character. Even PJ, who is the guy who smells of piss in the christening, who's only in it for 10 minutes, he's a brilliant character as well.
Yeah, I can't remember him. Oh yeah, there's some great characters. I mean, Joe next door and Mary is white.
Cheryl,
brilliant.
Yeah,
Cheryl, yeah. Darren's great, yeah. The girlfriend, can
Emma.
She have weight for fit and ham, Barbara? Yeah. Brilliant. And she was obviously Sheridan Smith, who went on to greater things as well.
So, final question then, Pam, for you, just on this movie. You mentioned the Full Monty before. Where do you rank this film in the pantheon of great British comedy films?
I mean, all 4 of them?
There's more than 4. There's about 10, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean, it falls outside of the great British films.
Yeah, of course it does, yeah. With Nail and I, I'm thinking of, Shaun of the Dead.
There's some great ones. I mean, what was it? Do you know what? I used to have a cinema that was £2 to go and visit in my local city where I live. So we used to go and watch all sorts of films. There was a British film starring Catherine Zeta-Jones, Splitting Heirs. We saw that at the cinema, and that's always stuck in my head as a good British film.
Okay,
Splitting Heirs.
Interesting.
There's loads of British films. As I say, Purely Belter, Billy Elliot, Train Spotting, Twin Town. There's some real good Lock, Stock, 4 Lions. There's some really good funny or gritty or dramatic British films out there. I wouldn't put this in the top 10. I wouldn't put it in the top 30. It's a shame about the ending, Tom. The ending ruined it for me. I think if the arc had completed and then found a way to, I think what it was too much disappointment early on, and then when the success came, we didn't witness it. What it should have done was hold you a little bit longer and build up to a semi-final or whatever it was. Maybe have the hand of God in that. Maybe we lose to Brazil in the final or whatever, and Mike Bassett isn't the best manager that ever lived, because I don't think they were telling that story. But it was disappointing. It wasn't as good as the Royle Family. Let's put it that way. The Royle Family. The first 3 series,
No, it wasn't as good as the Royle Family, but I agree. Yeah, it's definitely worth your time to watch, and go seek it out if you've not seeked it out before.
It's fun,
and it's a much loved film. And when I put on the Twitter a few weeks ago that we were going to discuss this, it got loads of interaction, it got loads of comments. Everyone was quoting
20 players is a great joke. 20 players is a great joke.
Yeah.
Before you watch it, remember that. Yeah, when you hear that, it's a good joke.
Yeah, so it's terrific movie, and I guess finally, I want to just go check out the archive, all the episodes we've done before. Get in touch with me, the Royle Ramble Pod. Let me know your thoughts on Mike Bassett, on the Royle Family in general. If you enjoy this and you want to help keep the lights on, you can buy me a coffee. The links are down below. Patreon is there as well. Twitter, Spotify, iTunes review, all that sort of stuff. Me and Pamphlet as well have done many, many episodes on my podcast called Battle Rap Resume. We have done a 2-hour interview where we talk about Pamphlet's whole battle career, from his first battle to what was his last battle. We did an episode that I'm sure you remember, Pam, where we talked about our top 10 funniest battlers, where we just kind of spoke about comedy and battle rap.
To the test,
Yeah, we've recapped loads of classic British events, good. And you were on my game show about battle rap as well. You competed on that, so
and I was on a game show about something else with you, wasn't I? I seem to remember.
Oh, we did a pun game show as well. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Pun it,
and I was really pissed off because my puns were better than the geezer that you said won, and I was well annoyed. I still am. Trust me.
Well, I guess finally, Pam, then, what about yourself? Is there anything you want to promote? Or
Yeah, I'd just like to promote world peace. I think that the world's a little bit too aggy at the minute, and I think that if we all just got along a bit more, things would run much more smoothly. So just be nicer.
I concur. And Mike Bassett himself would occur in his embroidery. So, I just want to give a big shout out to you, Pam, for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. And everyone, go out there, check out Mike Bassett. And you know what? Pam, my plan basically for this podcast is I'm finishing the Royle Family. Then I'm going to do Early Doors. Have you ever seen Early Doors?
Yes, I've seen Early Doors. I've already discussed Doors with you. It's great. I mean, if you get me on for one of those episodes, because I loved Early Doors.
Yeah.
And the dad in Early Doors was the dad of the Sheridan Smith character.
Roger, John Henshaw, legend.
Yeah, great actor. I mean, he's been in everything.
He has. He's in so much stuff. He's a fantastic.
If Ricky Tomlinson hadn't have been available for Mike Bassett, then he would have got it, surely.
Agreed. Yeah, they're the same caliber. So my plan is finish the Royle Family, do all of Early Doors, then I'm going to do every Mrs. Merton episode. Then I'm going to do Mrs. Merton and Malcolm. This is going to take me 5 years. It's going to take a long time.
Mrs. Merton chat shows.
Yeah. I'm going to review, because I've got it all on DVD. I'm going to review each one of the chat shows.
Because I've tried to get them on YouTube and they're not all available. She's interviewed some really interesting people.
She has indeed. Yeah. Tony Curtis, Dale Winton. Yeah, no, incredible.
Yeah.
There's loads of them aren't on YouTube, which is why I had to buy the DVDs. But they're only £9. They're all right. They're good value. So go out and get them the DVDs. And then I'm going to do Miss Merton and Malcolm. Then I'm going to do probably fucking Mike Bassett, the series. So, we'll get you back on for one of those.
Anything outside of
she did
outside of
she
Craig
did. So after the Royle Family ended the initial run, she did an Australian sitcom that she wrote called Dosser and Joe. I'll send you a link to it. It's only 6 episodes. It's on YouTube. Yeah.
It's Craig Cash. That's what I said. Craig Cash. Did he do anything after?
Excuse me,
Early
Craig
Doors?
Cash. Yeah, he.
Because obviously that's successful sitcoms in a row. Surely, I always wondered if he did anything else because. Even interviews on YouTube, it's very few and far between.
Agreed.
He's quite a private character.
Pam, I've been trying to get him on the podcast for years. Like, I'm dying to talk to this guy. I think he's an absolute genius. Doesn't seem that way. He directed things and he wrote something here and there. But in terms of a Royal Family or an early doors, no, he's not had another show after that. And
I love people like that. I love sort of finding out about them, and it was always a dead end trying to find out about Craig Cash's life, like biographies and stuff. Nothing.
No, agreed.
Who is he?
Maybe he'll chat to me one day. I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, Guy, this has been so good.
You want to start a podcast about Craig Cash? Who is Craig Cash?
Who is Craig Cash? Yeah, like a true crime. Not true crime, but yeah. But no, Pammy. Thank you for your time, man. And what's a battle someone should check out? So PAMFLIT, Pamphlet Versus. Put this in YouTube, dear listeners. What's your favourite? What's your personal favourite? What do you think is the best kind of?
I've got a best of that's an hour long, and that has a lot of my material in it. But obviously, that's not the battle element. That's just my material. Harry Baker's a good one, yes. Or Sigourney Fizzle. They're my two favourite, I think.
Sigourney Fizzle, there's a name, yeah. Okay, well, legend. No, Pam, thanks again, mate. This has been great.
I'll tell you as well, sorry, in terms of the battle rap thing, Stephen Bartlett's blown up, isn't he?
Oh, God, lyricist. Yeah, he has, yeah. God.
You can't take those off at successful people coming out of battle rap because they're everywhere. And rest in peace, Pat Stay.
Rest in peace, Pat Stay. Thanks again, Pam.
Yeah. All right, love you, man. Stay safe.
Tom Quee presents The Royal Ramble, an episode-by-episode celebration of the classic British sitcom The Royal Family. To get in touch with the show, email us at theroyalramblepod@gmail.com.